All right, so before we can find all roots of polynomials, we need to know how to divide polynomials. So we're going to go over how we divide polynomials using synthetic and long division, which is our learning targets to get today. All right, take a look at this bag of Reese's miniature peanut butter cups. How many are in the bag? All right, so how do I divide polynomials? As you may recall from your elementary days, what you do, you start by saying 12 goes into 2. Well, it won't, so then you go to 27. You say that goes in there twice. And then you say, okay, 2 up there, 2 times 12, that gives me 24. And then you say, all right, cool. Now I'm going to subtract those. And that would give me 3. You bring down your 7. And you've got 37. And then you say, how many times does 12 go into 37? And you put a 3 up here. You say 3 times 12 is 36, subtract, and you get 1 left over. All right, and then you would say, okay, how do I write my answer? Well, when you first started this, you did 23, and then you wrote remainder 1. But then as you got a little bit more advanced, then you wrote 1 over the divisor, so your remainder over the divisor. Call that a mixed number. Okay, now long division works very similarly. You can see over on the left there where we have a 12 right here. The coefficient here would be 1 and 2, so there's 1 and 2. 277, 277. And you'll notice all these 24 coefficients are the same, 2 and 4, and this works very similarly. Okay, we get the answer of 2x plus 3. And now when we write our answer for this, it's implied when you do a mixed number that there's kind of those are already together, they're added together. We don't actually have to write it for mixed numbers, but for this, we don't have anything like that for polynomials. So we do have to put a plus sign here, our remainder over our divisor, and our divisor is x plus 2. So we're going to put 1 over x plus 2, and then this would be our answer. Okay, that's how we did long division, and we're going to go over one of those to make sure we feel comfortable. Okay, with long division, you want to make sure first that this is in standard form. Both of them are, okay? And then you want to see, are there any missing 0 terms? Like I got an x squared term, then the next one is an x to the first, and then x to the nothing, right? Or just a constant. So I don't have any missing terms here. If you did, you'd want to put a 0x or a 0x squared or whatever term was missing as a placeholder. So it looks like I'm okay. So I'm going to write this in here. And then my divisor is 3x plus 1. Okay, so now we're going to say how many times does 3x go into 15x squared? You're only going to look at the first terms to begin with. And so that would be, well, another way to think of it is 3x times what gives me 15x squared? Well, that's 5x. Okay, now once you put something up there, you then need to multiply it by this whole thing. So I'm going to start by going 5x times 3x, which is 15x squared. And then I'm going to go 5x times 1. So that's 5x. So I'm going to write plus 5x. Now, I need to subtract. When I subtract this first 15x squared minus 15x squared, that's nothing, right? That should be what happens every time, or you did something wrong. Then you're going to do 8x. Now remember, it's minus 5x. So you have to look over there. If you don't, you just look here. You go, all right, that's 13x. Nope, right? You have to say 8x minus 5x, which gives us 3x. Okay, and then at this point, you are going to bring down your negative 12. Okay, and then you say, how many times does 3x go into 3x? Well, that would be once, right? Always just the first one to begin with. So you're going to put a plus 1 up here. Once you put something up top, you always have to multiply it by your divisor. So now I'm going to go 1 times 3x, 3x. So, right, 1 times 3x, and then 1 times 1. Okay, 1 times 1 is 1. Draw my line, put my little subtraction sign. Don't forget about that. It's important. And now I'm going to say negative 12 minus 1. If you don't look over there, you're going to write negative 11 here, and it's not negative 11, it's negative 13. So make sure you take your time and be careful with that. All right, now I'm going to write my answer. It's 5x plus 1, and then this is my remainder, goes over my divisor. So I'm going to write, because it's negative, I'm going to write minus 13 on top, and then 3x plus 1 on the bottom. This is my answer when I divide those two polynomials. Okay, long division of polynomials. We also have something called synthetic division, which you learned about last year. This is a shorthand method of dividing polynomials with just their coefficients. The divisor has to be in x minus r form, meaning there can't be a 3 in front here. It has to be a leading coefficient of 1. So for example, on this problem right here, I would not have been able to do synthetic division because that has a 3 in front of it. So we have to know how to do long division because synthetic division doesn't always work. Like long division, you need missing terms represented with a 0 if they're not there. Okay, so how does synthetic division work again? Well, first, let's see here. I'm going to put a little box. Now what goes in here? This is what my r is. And what is r? This is what makes r is what makes this equal to 0, right? It's my root. So what would make that equal 0? Well, this when x is negative 3. So what's going to go in this box is negative 3, okay? So really, it's kind of the opposite of what you see, okay? All right, now you're going to write the coefficients, but you need to make sure there's no missing terms. I've got x to the third, x squared, x constant. Anything that's missing, it has to go down by a degree of 1 every time. If it's missing something, you're going to have to write a 0 as a placeholder. So now I'm good there. I want to write my coefficients. The coefficient of this first term would be 1, right? So I'm going to write 1, 4, negative 3, negative 2. Now don't forget those negatives. That's going to be really important. Watch your signs. Okay. Ooh. Make that look a little bit better. All right. Now here, this is your remainder. Okay. So whatever you get for that. All right. Now, how does this work? Well, the first thing you're going to do is bring down your 1. So I get 1. Then anything that's below this line, you're going to multiply by negative 3. Okay? So I'm now going to go negative 3 times 1 and then put it right here. Okay? So negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Now, above the line, you will be adding. So 4 plus negative 3 is 1. All right, now I'm going to go negative 3 times 1 and write it here. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Add those together, you get negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. Okay, and then add those together, we get 16. Okay, now I'm going to write my answer. All right, now, what do you start with? Well, the degree of this polynomial was 3. The degree of your answer will always be 1 degree less. So we started with a degree 3. We're going to now be 2, 1 degree less. So this is 1x squared plus 1x minus 6. And then I'm going to write my 16 over my... That's my remainder, but it's got to go over my divisor. Now, I don't want to write just negative 3. I got to go look back. So over x plus 3 was my divisor. Don't forget, this is not your answer. You've got to write it as a polynomial because we're dividing polynomials. Your answer should be a polynomial. And there we go. Okay, synthetic division. Let's try another one and make sure we're good. You understand what you're doing. Okay. So let's see. What goes in the box? What's going to make this equal 0? That's going to be -2. Okay. So now, notice I've got x to the fourth, x to the third, no x squared term, 5x, and then -1. I'm going to need a placeholder for that x squared term. So I would have 3, -1, don't forget that's negative, 0, 5, -1. Okay, put my remainder box over here. And again, if it helps you to put these little things over here, go for it. I generally don't, but I will for this. So start by bringing this down. So that's 3. Okay, -6. Multiply those. Add. Okay, -2 times -7 is +14. Okay, that's -28. Add those together. You get -23. Multiply those together, you get 46. Add, you get 45. All right, now I want to write my answer as a polynomial. I had a degree 4, so I'm starting with degree 3 here. So this should be 3x to the third minus 7x squared plus 14x minus 23. My remainder is positive, so I'm going to write plus 45 over my divisor, x plus 2. And that's my answer. There we go. Okay. I hope you remember this, and this is coming back to you a bit. Write this into your planner, dividing polynomials, and then get started on it. When you're done, check it off and submit it. Have a good one.